5 new critical vulnerabilities affecting wide range of network devices produced by Avaya and Aruba have been recently disclosed by ARMIS, the security research company. These 5 vulnerabilities are all categorized as critical, and all of them have a CVEs score above the 9. And these vulnerabilities are affecting specifically the network devices or switches made by these companies, Aruba and Avaya. And these vulnerabilities could allow the remote attacker to exploit a vulnerable code on these devices, which made possible by an improper usage of a TLS library called NanoSSL. And NanoSSL is a library used by Avaya and Aruba products to make the function of radius authentication and the captive portal. And as a result of this vulnerability, the remote attacker can manage to exploit it and do a kind of remote code execution on the victim devices. And as a result, and as this network device is a switch, and as you know, the switch is managing and controlling the layer 2 networks, the attacker can manage to avoid or to bypass the network segmentation made and help him in making lateral movement inside the organization, as well as making a kind of data exfiltration and bypassing captive portal. So as this vulnerability is affecting network switches, and these network switches are ideally making and controlling the layer 2 networks, as a result, this vulnerability will be severe. Because we always instruct or tell in our courses that the security of layer 2 networks is secure as long as you manage to secure or control or harden the network switch that inside or that between the network devices is in this network. This series of vulnerabilities have a code name of TLStorm, and in the description box below this video, I will leave for you the official blog post that made or published by ARMIS, and this blog post is the origin or is the source of most of the documentations or similar articles that are published on the internet. And inside this blog post, you will find a lot of useful information about how to conduct this attack and what do we mean by breaking network segmentation, and what are the affected devices from both Avaya and Aruba. And as well, I will leave you in the description the official advisory published by both extreme networks, which control or which own now the products of Aruba network, Avaya, because Avaya is now acquired or part of Extreme Networks. So we will find that the official blog post or the official advisory published by Extreme Networks. And in this advisory, we will find the affected software, and as well as we will find the repair recommendations, or in other words, what are the fixed releases which we can expect this vulnerability to be covered on. And you will find that in the switch model ERS 4900 and 5900, it is fixed, and we already have a fixed release for these two switches or these two family of switches in version 7.9.2. While in ERS 3600, we are expecting to find a resolution or find a fix in release 6.5.4 in the second half of July. So we still don't have a patch for this family of switches and as well as this family of switches. And for Aruba, we will find that there is no patch yet. However, in Aruba, they are recommending that to implement a firewall to reduce the attack surface and to limit the exposure of these vulnerabilities. And in the article of Aruba, you will find also the list of vulnerable or list of affected hardwares, as well as list of affected softwares that are related to these hardwares. So what are the recommendations? The recommendation, as well as any similar incident, is to research if you are using these kind of devices in your network. So if you are using products or network switches that are produced or supported by Extreme Networks, Avaya, HPE, or Aruba Networks. And why HPE? Because HPE is the vendor or is the owner of Aruba Networks in nowadays. So we have Extreme Network, which acquired Avaya, and we have HPE, which acquired Aruba Network equipment. So if we have this kind of products, you need to consult your vendor in this case to understand if your current products are affected by this vulnerability or not, and then gain the recommendations from the vendor directly to see how to remediate this issue or how to limit the exposure of such attack. And it is also recommended, and it is a good practice, and it is not only a good practice, but it is a mandatory requirement in nowadays is by conducting authenticated vulnerability scanning in your network and on your servers. So ideally, every month you need to scan your entire infrastructure using authenticated mode to detect if you have active vulnerabilities that are existing in your environment. And if you have a critical or high severity vulnerabilities, you need to act quickly and apply the remediation and apply the corresponding patch to remediate this flaw. And for other type of vulnerabilities, you should also remediate it. But what we are really restricting on, if you have a critical or high vulnerabilities, then the quick action will be needed. But this should be according to your patch management and the change management process. So we are not here speaking about applying patch directly, but every company should have a process of vulnerability assessment that are documented or managed by the patch management policy. And for any patch installation, it will be subject to the regular or the change management process or change management policy in the organization. And vendor recommendations need to be applied in timely manner, but of course as per the change management procedures in your environment. And firewall is mandatory because using a firewall we can reduce the attack surface by limiting what are the published ports or what are the ports that can be seen from the internet. So as you can see in the advisory that is published by Aruba Networks, you will find that in this advisory that applying a firewall or using a firewall will help in reducing the attack surface and will help in limiting how much this vulnerability can impact our network. So using a firewall and hardening this firewall by only publishing or by applying a policy based on the concept of least privilege or the minimum requirement of access by restricting source IP, destination IP, and destination port, and in some cases the application. In this case, we may have a good level of security. So that was all for this video. I hope you to stay safe and keep your infrastructure patched, and follow my channel to gain up-to-date information about what are the recent outbreak vulnerabilities that are affecting the society of the internet and the networks. Thank you so much and have a great day.